watched that first Olympics when Marlene bronzed, and I think Michaela. Did she not make the team?
Michaela was the 2016. It was Queen Underwood, Marlon, and Claressa. That was the first women's squad.
No one was on Claressa. No one. No one was saying, oh, they was all on them other girls, right? Even me, I'm guilty because I don't follow amateur boxing more than just my kids and what they doing. And I'm watching the tournament, so I happen to see everybody. Well, Claressa won that gold medal, and was it England? I think England. I'm like, shit, she earned that shit because they wasn't pushing her. So then she did it again. I'm like, well, fuck. This fucking woman here, man. And so now, in 10 fights, she got 9 world titles. And all them girls can fight. What's my girl, the diva? Forgive me, baby. I'm a fan too. The one who lost to the steroid chick. Y'all know what I'm talking about, man. I'm just having a brain freeze. Anyway, Hammer, all these girls. Claressa beat real fighters, man, and they ain't little girls. These, at her weight, these girls is fighters. So I'm like, y'all, how the hell is she having to go to MMA and shit, man?
Well, here's the thing, like Lukey said, it is a shame that she can't make the money that she deserves. And I think that's just reflects the gap that we still have to work on and bridge and get more fans to get into women's boxing. And that's why I'm so happy that we try to support women's boxing as much as we can. And we bring them on the show. We give them that platform. But maybe it's a smart move. I don't know. Go over to MMA, pick up a couple fans there, make some money, have control. Pick your opponents strategically, and then it's hard to find opponents for her, right? To get that big payday to make that money. You just said it. She's only had 10 fights, 9 of them being titles, but
man, Claressa was going down to meet Cecilia, man. Cecilia didn't want that fight.
But
she was going down to fight her.
Let's keep it funky. Cecilia messed up the church's money. Because that fight was going to happen, and then Cecilia leaves to McCaskill, and now I think that Claressa is like, why does it even matter? Because if she beats either of them, it's like people are gonna look like that's nothing. So she's got to do MMA because Cecilia messed up the church's money.
Now I'm not gonna pretend, Lou, that I know Claressa's pocketbooks, and I don't know what kind of money she done made. I know she done bought herself a house and cars and all that stuff, but maybe I'm gonna go out on a limb here. Maybe she's such a competitor. These MMA people, because it's the PFL is the same people that my man Clay Collins is under contract with, PFL. And
they're in problems with Clay because Clay gonna get that check.
Yeah, so but maybe they went up to Claressa and said, here you go, here's a dollar amount. You want it? And she's such a competitor, fucking right. And in the meantime, I'll go box or whatever. Who knows? I'm not gonna pretend like I know, and I wouldn't ask her a personal business. But from the outside, like we're saying as boxing guys, how the fuck is she not making the money to where if an MMA league come to her, the dollar amount they gonna give her is like, nah, I'm over here doing what I'm doing, 9-time world champion in 10 fights. I agree with you. And again, there's probably a whole gang of shit I don't know when it comes to the management of her and the promotion of her. I don't know.
I'm sure she's watching the landscape in the boxing. She's seeing these fucking guys, Paul Jake making all this fucking money and DAZN doing these gimmick shows. And she's got to be sitting back saying, I got to get my piece of the pie. I got to get in on this. And with I'm sure her team, she's going out getting one of the iconic coaches, and I'm sure her team are having these meetings and these discussions to say, hey, listen, let's do it. We'll control we're going to have control of who our opponent's going to be. Let's pick up some fans. Let's pick up some money. And then, when the right fight comes in boxing, we get the payoff.
Are we going to keep it all the way real, too, though? That the other issue about women's boxing is there's a lot of sexism based around how you look. And Claressa's just not what a lot of guys – now, I think that she's a attractive, fine young woman, but a lot of people want that sexy girl, the bikini model, the Sports Illustrated girl. Look at Christina Hammer, who she fought. she was starting to get a fan base based off of sex appeal, even though she had a good jab and had fundamentals. The problem that I've always had with women's sports in general, and it's messed up, is a man could be as ugly as they want to be, and if they can knock a guy down, we respect it. But when a woman gets in there, they have to be the beauty queen pageant and the butt-whooping knockout artist, and that just ain't right. And I think that's another problem, is Clarissa's just a straight-up beat you up, tomboy, tough athlete.
Well, not to give it away, but I'm from the brick jungle. The west side of the river in New Orleans, and she's right up my alley as far as looking. But I get what Luke is saying. The mainstream, my wife will say, she'll say all the time, like with these stars and these singers and shit, right? She was like, Dad, they could do things to the, they'll be attractive by the time it's over. It just takes money, But I get what you're saying, man. They want the slender beauty pageant style of woman, and then be an ass kicker too. The reason why I think they was pushing Mia St. John ended up with a WBC title based on people watching her for the looks of her. But hey, what you gonna do, man? I think Claressa Shields gonna end up being the best thing going, bro. And I just hope if she goes over there, she does well, and it doesn't
pick up any bad habits. I hope she doesn't pick up any bad habits while she's over there.
Nah, she's a professional, man. I think I know what you mean. Yeah, because like I said, it doesn't coexist really. MMA guys don't come to boxing and win world titles for a reason.
She come back stepping and leaning forward.
Yeah.
Well, only time will tell here. Once Lukey gets back, I want to talk. We'll end the show with because I guess you watched it. I want to get your review on the Camacho documentary. Was that Showtime?
Yeah, Showtime.
So you had to download the app or something to watch that. You have to have the app.
No, it's on regular. It was on regular Showtime cable. I mean, if you want to do it demand, you got to do it.
I ain't got that money like that, man. Showtime, HBO, Showtime. I can't afford that shit. I got channel 12, 13, and 11. So, what were your thoughts on that Camacho documentary?
I mean, like, with me, the stories are always kind of like every fighter has a good story, right? So when you put money behind, we could find the most journeyman 2-10 fighter. But if you get good cameras and you love the sport or you love hearing a good story, as long as there's something you get out of it, every story is going to be good. And I say all that to say, Camacho was always a sensational personality. He had one of the best chins in boxing. There's a story to be had there. For me, Camacho was kind of bittersweet because I grew up kind of looking up to Ray Leonard, my grandpa and all that. So it was hard, even though I can separate myself, when you're a young man, it's hard to change the memory you had. And watching that documentary brings back a lot of my grandpa crying because Ray Leonard didn't have it no more. So that's kind of what I think when I see that, and that's just me being a human being. It's not discounting Camacho, but it's just me being honest about my relationship with boxing. Was growing up, that's who my grandfather didn't like because he thought so much of Leonard.
Yeah, but to be fair, Leonard was 146 at that time?
Well, yeah, but when you're a kid, you don't know it. You just see like superhero crying, and you believe that was. I had a VHS tape that said best boxers in the world, and it had Ray Leonard, Mike Tyson, Ray Robinson, and Marvin Hagler. And it was a 1 hour and 30-minute. Do you remember SLP? So you could get an SP tape or an SLP, and it was a 4-hour tape. But it was real bad quality, but you could watch the fights. It was YouTube back in the day. And that was one of my guys, was watching what he did. So
I haven't watched it yet. I'm excited to watch it, but I'm sort of in the same boat with you, Lukey. I'm growing up, I was a big Chavez fan, being Mexican. So the whole Puerto Rican versus Mexican, we have that aspect to it. So I was raised to hate him because he was the enemy. It wasn't until later till I got to appreciate what he was, who he was, what he did in the ring, and the excitement that he brought. So I'm looking forward to seeing the documentary. But what were your thoughts on it, D?
Like you said with child, listen, man, Hector Camacho was a talented, extremely gifted, talented fighter, and pretty much had the star power and salesmanship, like him or not. As a kid, and I think Luke brought it up. As a kid, you had memories, and one of my boxing memories is rooting for Boom Boom Mancini, and if I'm gonna pretend it wasn't because he was another white guy, I'm gonna be lying to you. So, though I'm not Italian, he was the white guy, right? And so I remember not caring about Camacho and wanting the blue collar worker. I don't think a lot of people understand how huge a star Boom Boom Mancini was at one time in this country. There was rock and roll records written about this guy, and so of course I was anti Camacho when he fought Mancini, but then all that went away when he fought Ray Leonard, because I'm the anti-Ray Leonard guy, and so yeah, he was 140 years old and Camacho was 130, so it don't fucking matter. I was loving the ass whooping, but I understand the historical in the impact it had, how Ray lost that fight. Now I ain't gonna pretend Camacho versus Ray Leonard at fucking welterweight would have been something it wasn't in their primes, but that documentary just showed, like, how, watching that documentary, how the fuck you thought his story was gonna end. That was exactly how it was gonna end, and he was a wild guy, but then, part of that is what makes a fighter a great fighter, coming from the have-nots, and that's why the Eastern Europeans have taken over boxing, because they coming from the broke down USSR, and these was basically ghettos now and mob controlled places and shit. These guys are starving, bro, with the communism and shit. Now they took over boxing. So it was the next people. And Camacho was a ghetto guy, man, Spanish Harlem, from the projects, man. He was bound to be, and then gifted on top of that. So I think those guys, I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. I think it was a fun ride. I hate to see how it ended. And we had his son on the podcast, and we talked about his dad and how it was coming up with a father like that and the pressure he was under. But it's sad. It's a sad, watching his mother's, heartbreak. It was terrible, man. Anybody with a little bit of compassion could understand how she was feeling, man. And I hated to see him go out like that. I remember when he died and they said he was shot. I was like, damn. Oh, that's how that story is, man. But it was a good documentary. I'd tell anybody who was a fan or hell, if you ain't a boxing fan, it's a good documentary.
Yeah, it's just a good, like, my thing is, as a fan of boxing, I always want to get the old time stories that the fights are hard to watch. I want them to bust through those documentaries first. Let's get the Ezzard Charles one, the one where I don't really fully understand who he was. Let's preserve some of those. Let's get Ezzard Charles. There's enough Joe Louis, but let's get those ones, and then we can go through because we got to preserve a documentary I'd like to see would be Floyd Sleepy Patterson, because I watched the tape, but I don't really get who he was, and I think that would be valuable because it looks like he was one of the sparks that changed boxing, and it looks to me through watching tape, he was the less powerful Mike Tyson. He had a lot of the moves, but he didn't have the power. And then Tyson was the Floyd Sleepy Patterson remix. He came in. He was the spark. He was what Cus D'Amato kind of always wanted. So I'd like to see that kind of context too. If we're going to touch on these, do the Camachos, but let's get the Sleepy Pattersons.
He And his story is very, very intriguing if you know anything about Floyd Patterson.